First question. What do you mean by fundamental rights? Fundamental right means a right of liberty in a positive sense which enable an individual to develop his personality and to live his life in his own interest and in the interest of the community as a whole. Second question. What do you mean by directive principles? The directive principles are the guidelines for the union and state governments to follow in their day-to-day functioning as they are the aims and objective of the constitution. Third question. What is meant by amendment of the constitution? Amendment refers to the changes in the constitution according to the procedure laid down. Constitution has to adjust itself to changing condition and needs. Hence, every written constitution has a provision for changing it through a proper procedure. Fourth question. What is meant by Republic of India? A republic is a democratic government as opposed to monarchy. It is a government in which ultimate power is vested in the people. The government is carried on by elected representatives of the people. First question. Why are the rights in the part 3 called fundamental? The rights are fundamental because it includes in the constitution and form a part of constitution or a fundamental law. Fundamental rights are available only to the citizens and not for foreigners. Fundamental right has a higher status compared to ordinary law. Fundamental rights has a limitation upon the activities of the state and the powers of a government. Fundamental rights to be changed, modified, or deleted only by an amendment of the Constitution. Fundamental rights are justifiable, that is, they can be enforced in the courts of law. In this respect, the Supreme Court and High Court are empowered to issue rights for their protection. Second question. Explain the difference between directive principles of state policy and fundamental rights. Fundamental rights constitute limitations upon state action. Directive principles are in the nature of instruments of instruction to the government to perform certain functions. Second different, fundamental rights are justifiable. Directive principles are non-justifiable. Third difference, fundamental rights can be enforced. Directive principles cannot be enforced in the court of law. Fourth difference, fundamental rights are available to the citizens directly and in the form in which they are contained in state legislative. Directive principles require to be implemented by a law of parliament or the constitution. Fifth difference, the main objective of fundamental rights is to establish economic democracy. The main objective of directive principle is to establish political democracy. Third question, what were the main provisions of the 42nd Amendment? The main provisions of the 42nd Amendment are the word secular, socialist, and integrity were included in the preamble. Next one, the directive principles were given precedence over fundamental rights. Next, a list of fundamental duties was incorporated. Only the Supreme Court can be determine the validity of a central law. The power of High Court to issue rights was curtailed. It has a special tribunals to deal with the administrative and other matters. Fourth question, what are the main provisions of the directive principles or classify and enumerate the directive principles of the state policy? First one, directive principles aim to establish a welfare state said in Article 38, 39, 41, 42 and 43. Provision is Gandhian principle. Third provision, educational matters. Fourth provision, international peace and security. Fifth provision, miscellaneous principles. Fifth question, examine the implementation of directive principles of state policy. First implementation is Zamindari Abolition Acts and Land Selling Acts have been passed. Second one, life insurance and banking institutions were nationalized. Third implementation is Factory Laws, Minimum Wages Act, Equal Wages Act to men and women. Fourth one, Three-tier Panchayati Raj system has been introduced uniformly all over the country. Fifth one, compulsory education up to primary stage. Sixth one, it has introduced community development programs in the field of agriculture and animal husbandry.